Hey guys, Lotus Dreams here, coming at you with another review, and this time we're gonna review Codex Craftworlds. And obviously this is only Eldar, this is not Dark Eldar or anything like it. It's only the normal Asuyan, or however they call it now, the normal Eldari, pretty much. And I'm gonna go look over it and see what we have. As always, I will do the normal stuff just ahead, and there's no surprises here. The codec is very, let's say, basic. There is a bunch of concepts that make close combat more interesting, yet again. That's actually a very common theme now with what Games Workshop reveals. And I'll go over the Craftworlds at the end of the video, but I will put Warlord traits, stratagems, and everything together so we can assess their power level a little bit better, because it's really annoying to look through the book and then put it all back together. So I did it for you. Alright, Eldar 8th edition was pretty much still great shooting, but nerfed. Everything was nerfed. Nerf troops, nerf buffs to blast scale and whatnot. And now what we have is we have no new units still, but we have massive point reduction, and that obviously will make a big difference. So essentially what we're looking at here, just without changing anything, just taking the basic rules, it wouldn't do anything. Hey guys, Lotus Dreams here, coming at you with another review, and this time I'm going to talk about Codex Craftworlds. I'm going to do the usual review style, so we have a short comparison to what was before, what changed, the general ideas, Warlord traits, and all the usual stuff, and at the end I'll take a compromised look at all the Craftworlds, and they'll be all in one section. So after everything else is generic Eldar rules. Alright, so let's start off. Eldar 8th edition have still some is a pretty good shooting army. Close combat and so on, not so much. And basically everything is nerfed. Nerfed in the sense the abilities got weaker. They have higher point costs than before, and the HQ section is still really expensive for what they do. And yeah, the common idea was for most other players that their army simply was not as powerful as before, and obviously being the ridiculously powerful army that they were in 7th edition, there was a very high fall, which is, well, it probably feels more subjective, worse than before. But still, they have a few. They didn't even get much. The Eldar are already such a fancy army that can break the rules of the normal game that the others obey so much that it doesn't really. There is not really something common going on here in 8th edition that will make them feel outstanding. Now, to be fair, I think that doesn't even change in this codex, but there is some stuff that gets more viable, and there's even more cheese than there was in the 7th, in my opinion. The idea here is we obviously have no new units, and we're only talking about Eldar here, so no Dark Eldar, no Harlequins or whatnot. There is some keywords in this codex, so we can prepare for some additional codices for the other factions as well, and you can add them from this codex to them. We have 5 Craftworlds, which I'll go about at the very last second of this review, and we have one thing, first of all, massive point reduction in all categories. So that is war gear, that is basic unit troops, scorpions, whatnot, everything that was actually too expensive. And Eldar had a lot of expensive stuff. They, if you wanted to run a Dark Reaper army, for example, there were just too few models. They would just die instantly, and that's it. They have some amazing shooting, though their other abilities are not that powerful in compared to others, and the closing the gap this edition is way easier than it was before, which is always a big nerf to Eldar. So we have to look at this codex and see what changes do we have here that help the Eldar out when escaping some warmongering horde of combat berserkers or other psychers, for example, which can screw them over pretty massively. Considering they have so expensive models in the 8th edition, mortal wounds and such hurt really, really badly. They have the usual 5 specific stratagems for each Craftworld, and obviously more. There are some that are very, very similar to others, like the rocket launcher and whatnot, but there's also some interesting ones. They also have the usual Warlord traits, the Craftworld specific ones, and then finally they obviously have a ton of psychic powers, because they have the usual runes of fate, runes of battle and whatnot. They got some good access to psychic powers all around, I would say. Was it 12? I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, we have the same stuff as before, and the Eldar Warlord traits are as usual. You can only take an Eldar character that is your Warlord. Units within 6 get +1 AP on 6s to hit in the fight phase. As a Warlord trait, probably not that good. Warlord can't be overwatched. Also not that good, unless he's tanking Overwatch for somebody else by making it in. Movement +2. That's a decent one, because there is some psychic cheese that I'll talk about later where movement gets important, that you get in range. And then obviously +1 wound and 6+ Pheno Pain is just solid. It's just +1 wound in comparison to what they had before. And the last one is target enemy characters in the shooting phase, even though you usually can't do it. Can be good if your warlord is very shooty, but it's unlikely that he wants to that he has enough power to take out characters by himself. But this would be very, very nice against Imperial Guard, for example, where the characters are not as tough as you would have it for other HQs, and where you can just snap them out and remove power from the blob. That's actually a really good use of it. And then the last one is reroll one hit wound save psychic roll per battle round for your Warlord, which is, I mean, decent, but most of the time it's not that big of a deal, unless the psychic power is a really good one. I can see use most of that for the psychic one, because it's a very unreliable thing. Usually you don't rely with your life on one hit roll, but it might be the psychic roll that saves you. So all in all, it's not that specific, but okay. Runes of Fate, we have 3 new additions. We have Executioner, 7 charge, so decent enough. Nearest unit within 18 suffers D3 mortal wounds, so it's a smite. And if slain, additional D3 mortal wounds. So as long as there's one model removed, so let's say you're targeting a Orc Boy unit or something like that, then it's actually pretty good. If there's a multi-wound model, you might not be able to finish that first one off, and then obviously the power gets much weaker. But other than this, is actually a smite, pretty much. An additional smite in this sense, because it's a different power. Will of Assyrian is 5, so very easy to get. Units within 6 auto pass morale test, and you get +1 deny the witch. Not bad. It's good. Mind War. Pick a character within 18, roll d6 plus leadership, and the difference in the scores is taken in mortal wounds. If obviously you lose, nothing happens. That's a usual one. I mean, that's it sounds cool, but you actually have to have some sort of leadership reduction to make it worthwhile. So just for the Eldar themselves, I don't think it's that good, to be honest. I think Executioner is way better, and the Will would be better in this case, just to make sure that your giant Guardian blob or whatever does not flee the battle, which they might, because they die rather quickly. And then Runes of Battle, Protect and Jinx, so +1 or -1 save for a unit within 18. You can only target infantry or bikers in your own, which is a very common trait here. Good. Really good. Makes the Aspect Warriors have 2+ armor saves pretty much if they want to. Even makes the normal Guardian unit a little bit better, although there is a stratagem for these guys as well. Well, that would be probably a little bit better. And -1 save is obviously also huge, because you can make sure that your high volume of fire with low AP still gets very good damage down. So scat lasers and whatnot, they all don't have like massive amounts on AP, so reducing saves, great. Quick and Restrain, that's the broken one, as always. Move as if it was the movement phase, or half all movement of an enemy squad. Obviously, having all movement deals very nicely with stuff that comes too close to you and that would close in the very next turn. But the big thing is obviously move as if it was the movement phase. You can only target infantry or bikers, but still, Eldar units are very fast. So in conjunction with their already high speed, this would make them even more speedy than they were before, which is obviously great. And we already know that in the Chaos Space Marine Codex, this is one of the most broken and best spells there is, like with no doubt. So this one is going to be huge. It's going to be great for both shooting and close combat, doesn't matter which one. Additional movement distance is always great. And even if it's only for a bunch of fire dragons or something like that, if they get into Melta range, they will probably kill something very easily. So even having it there is powerful. So rules of battle, good stuff. Empower Innovate is +1 to wound rolls in fight phase, infantry or biker yet again. -1 is also pretty nice, so your Eldar don't die as fast, especially if the enemy has some sort of fighting first in the combat phase or something like this, where you might get cut down before you get to strike. Obviously this one is much more situational than the other two, because +1, -1 to wound only in the fight phase is only good if you're prepared and you're going in for that kind of. And then even then, would I take it over Protect Jinx? Because jinxing a unit is -1 saves. So you have to see what you want there. In some cases where your strength might be strength 3 and the toughness is 5, reducing the save probably doesn't cut it. +1 to wound though. That's pretty good. That will work. And -1 to wound roll for Wraith constructs. I mean, they probably would get hurt on 6s most of the time. So Wraith constructs with Empower Innovate is pretty good. We have artifacts. Obviously, I'm not going to list all the weapons because it gets really annoying, and I don't think there's any worth talking about them. Let's talk about the interesting ones. So the first one is the Phoenix thingy. On death, all units within 3 inches, even your own, take the 3 mortal wounds and then a 2+. So very reliable damage. And if this kills animal, you get back up with 1 wound remaining. So it's some pretty good damage if you're planning on running your close combat army of some sort. This might actually deal a lot of damage. It also might deal a lot of damage to your own army, so you have to be a little bit careful. But I don't know about this edition, but last edition I often find my autarch going somewhere alone, places, trying to secure objectives and whatnot. And actually a boost to his power is actually really good in this case, because he might end up killing the squad and reviving himself holding the objective. So you can send him in as some sort of a living bomb. So why not? And the next one is Vulture's Wings. An infantry model can get movement 12 plus fly. So actually something that could not take a jetpack before can now move very fast. Essentially makes your psychers way better, because you get to move around with the fast moving part of the armies, and obviously warlocks and whatnot. Spirit Seers, for example. Why not? Would be a good idea if you want to move fast, or if your other army parts are deep striking in or something like this, where you need to be closer to them. Could work. Alright, other than this, power swords, whatnot, spears, not interested in those, and none of these are particularly interesting in the greater scheme as well, I think. Stratagems. The first one and the best one is right at the front. Teleport for infantry and bikers or vehicles. You can only choose one of these, but you essentially can make a web-way attack of some sort. And yeah, that is actually pretty amazing, because I used to run the Cloud Strike formation with the 3 Falcon tanks, and it was pretty clunky and really expensive to run, to get aspect warriors where they needed to be, although the power of it was really strong. If you get to use that stuff and you play your cards right, Eldar units are very specialized units, so if you get them into the right places where they need to be, they will perform very well, better than anything that the other factions usually have, unless they're super specialized units as well. And then you now get to choose where you guys are and where the other guys are, and making that choice is obviously great. Teleporting around is way better than boosting across the field because you can't get shot, obviously. The big thing here is the mobility. And then the next one is any unit you can shoot and then run away. Which is like pretty much the old battle focus, but now anybody can get it. You could put it on a, I don't think there's any restriction. You could put it in a Wraith Knight. As long as it's an Eldar unit, you're fine. Pretty good one. Guardians get a 4++ invuln save. Also very good, because the one problem with Guardian blobs is they're actually pretty squishy. If you get to give them a invuln save, it makes it's already better than their normal armor save, than their normal mesh armor, so why not? And then again, you get much more survivability against heavy bolters and whatnot, all kinds of heavy weapons. So it's a good thing to have troops that are more tanky, and obviously this will tie in with any other Guardian synergy things, because Guardians weren't very good the last edition, so I'm hoping to see some changes, and this is one of them. A double wave Serpent Shield, not game breaking but useful. You can fall back and still shoot and charge in the same turn. That's actually a good one. That's pretty much Harlequin stuff, and this can do you a real favor in case you get stuck on something that you don't want to attack, especially if you're running wave constructs in your army. Then this might be very helpful. But even then, even if your bikes get stuck in close combat, or if your opponent doesn't have very good overwatch, you could just break free, shoot again, charge again, get your bonuses and whatnot. It works very well, especially with something like Banshees. They don't get overwatched anyway, so they can just hop around and attack a different unit if they want to. And attack first, because they charged again, which is something they lost. Next one, restore D3 wounds in a Wraith construct. Makes it really, really annoying to kill the Wraith units, although it's not that useful. I think the other ones are bigger impact. And then another very big one, similar to the teleport, you can redeploy 3 units from anywhere back to your normal deployment zone. And considering that most of your guys don't want to get caught, you can really, really annoy stuff like Grey Knights, for example, that usually only have 1 turn to teleport strike and have mobility. So these guys can just redeploy, get out of here, and sit somewhere where the enemy is not. And this will make them very elusive in general. And then last but not least, the avatar can finally be revived. And after you revive him, you will see that he still has the same problems as before. He still can't reach anything. But, you know, yeah, there is some mobility options even for the avatar in this case. So let's see if we can get him somewhere. But I don't have much hope of this happening. And 3 commands points is not that nice. There's other ones here, like I don't know, something like the fire prisms combining their shots and trying to target down a very big one, but I'll not go over these because they are very generic. You can still take multiple relics, you can take that rocket launcher, you can take a +2 yep psychic and whatnot. But that's not as game breaking, I think, as mobility is, and survivability, by the way. Both. Alright, and now we go to the big stuff. Ally talk coming up first, and probably the biggest upset, because they are annoying. Their normal Craftworld ability is -1 to hit if you're 12 or more away, and that applies to every single unit. So that's flyers, that's tanks, that's guardians, whatnot, doesn't matter. It's better than Raven Guard or whatever they have, because it's infantry, bikers, and dreadnoughts, and this is everything. Obviously, this is really, really annoying if you already have a -1 modifier, such as Rangers or the Hemlocks or whatever you want to take. And you can stack this with Psychic and with Stratagems as well if you want to. There's no limits here. So Ally talk in general make Eldar not only more elusive due to the normal traits that all Eldar have, but they're also more survivable because you can't hit them. And it doesn't matter how squishy the unit is, if you can't hit them, you have huge problems attacking them in general. So you better get to close combat with the ally talk, or you have a very, very big problem, because your shooting will be very ineffective. And shooting got severely nerfed from 7s to 8s. Don't forget that. The Tau do not have nearly as much power as they have, and they will probably not win against the ally talk army that is based on hiding. The stratagem is Ranger only get hit on 6s, and there's no modifiers allowed. So you can put Rangers, which are troops by the way, somewhere, and most likely the enemy cannot kill them. And then you can hide your character inside them and they can't kill him. And that character might have a very powerful ability that allows you to, for example, I don't know, get +1 to your armor saves or whatnot. I don't know. They have very, very powerful abilities in their psychic, and protecting psychers is great, and the stratagem obviously for 1 point only is great. Warlord trait is auto-pass morale within 6s if all Eldar units are around them. I talk, which is a little bit weird that they mentioned this specifically, but it's decent. It can make a difference when your guys actually get hit. But if they don't get hit, they don't have to run away. That's the one issue. It's very rage-inducing because it's very similar to the Necrons. The only issue is Necrons do not have that range, do not have that shooting power, and do not have that mobility, while the Eldar have all of that. So getting tougher is actually a big problem for other armies, not as much as Necrons. With Necrons you just had the feeling you're doing absolutely nothing, which was also infuriating, but at least they were shooting you off the table or running away faster than you could ever catch them. So Necrons will have a very, very bad day against this kind of army. Alright, the relic is infantry only, -1 to hit in the shooting phase. Hallelujah, there's another modifier for your Warlord if you want to. And he also gets to infiltrate, which is a very good trait. As I just said, move up your guys, speed them forward, kill something, whatever you want. It's a useful one. Being 10. +1 leadership for aspect warriors and rerolls of ones with shuriken weapons. Obviously, Dire Avengers is the first thing that pops into your mind. +1 leadership for aspect warriors is actually pretty nice because they are still expensive, although they got reduced in points, yes, but they get war gear that makes them more expensive. If you're taking a Scorpion's Claw, for example, that guy is a pretty big deal, and he should not die if possible, and obviously running away is one of the big issues where all the armor and whatnot can't help you very much, so +1 is great. The stratagem is +2 to charge rolls and reroll once in close combat, or +3 if the avatar is within 6 and reroll everything. So they like the avatar for sure, because considering you already have the ability to get you guys really, really close, and you're striking scorpions, and you have an avatar, you have an ability that allows you to move again. So if you're moving 14 base, you're moving 28 inches that turn, and then you add +2 to the charge rolls, and you still get to use your stratagem to reroll the distance if you want to. So you get guys somewhere, and they will be in close combat at some point. This is especially important for wave constructs because they are very, very slow, and even boosting their movement speed is not really that powerful. But if they then get extra in the charge phase, that's nice. And re-rolling is very seldom for Eldar that they actually get to re-roll stuff in close combat. So this is a great buff if you wanna go close combat. Otherwise, not really that useful. Warlord trait. Reroll all fail to hit rolls for a unit within 3 inches of you. Great stuff. Essentially, as long as something is next to your Warlord, it's gonna be very good at shooting. This is a great buff for pretty much any unit. It's a good Warlord trait in general. And then the relic, Psyker only, reroll any failed psychic tests. Very powerful in itself. And if failed a second time, you get no more casting that round. Okay, so I don't know. It's I would take that any day. Reroll any psychic. Why not? The psychic powers are very, very good, so why not take it? Yanden, the weird one. This is the one that there's always Games Workshop tries to do something every single codex, and this is one of the codexes yet again where they try to make wraith constructs a better unit. And this is pretty much the Craftworld that supports your basic wave constructs. So the Craftworld trait, no more than one model due to mortal test can run away, and you double the wound chart results when looking at the combat effectiveness. So if that Wraith Knight or Wraith Lord, which is the obvious choice here, has very few wounds remaining and would not be very effective, they probably still will be, because doubling is pretty decent. I mean, losing half of your wounds doesn't do much, but if you lose more than that, you already lose combat effectiveness, and these would not fear this. They have only a quarter of the effect. So pretty useful there. Stratagem, Spirit Mark increase ranged, and you reroll all hits for Wraith constructs instead of only once. So that's great for obviously shooty Wraith armies or normal, doesn't even matter. The Wraith constructs are still pretty expensive, so if you make the most of them, that's a pretty good deal. And you probably want to take a Spirit Seer anyway. So what would work, I think? Water trait is deny the witch, or if you already can deny the witch, you can deny one more, which is okay. It's not really that powerful, it's okay. And then the Relic, Psyker, once per battle, a Wraith construct attacks within 6 are doubled, and each unit that is affected by this at the end suffers D3 mortal wounds. That's actually pretty nasty, because they get a huge amount of combat effectiveness all of a sudden, which is a problem of Wraith constructs. Their attacks are not that much, but their weapons are actually pretty good. That was a problem in the last edition too, where the poor blades only had one attack. And I was like, what? How the hell are they supposed to be damaged? Because their basic loadout, their swords and axes are pretty good. So doubling their attacks is a pretty valid option. And as you can see in this codex, there is very few things that make Eldar hit more. More attacks is not something that they get very easily. They get more ability to reroll now, which is also good, but more attacks is hard to get. So could be worth it. I mean, it's for free essentially. You have to take a Psyker in order to get it, but it might swing the tides in a fight where the Wraith constructs actually have to take out the enemy, such as a Primarch, or I don't know what, a Titan, everything that swings the game too much around. It would be definitely worth it to suffer D3 mortal wounds per unit, simply because whatever threat they're up against is probably going to take them out anyway. If they just get stomped into the ground by a weapon that deals 6 damage per attack, then you might as well take some mortal wounds, who cares? As long as you're dealing with the threat, you're doing your job. That's where you would use this relic. Alright. Samhan. Reroll failed charges in general. Great. So another cross combat buff. I like it. And then again, bikers get no moving penalty for heavy weapons. The scatter bikes are back, so everybody that has the scatter packs from 7th edition can obviously field them as Samhan and pretty much do everything as they used to. They are still hitting on 3s or on 2s now if you want to, with the right traits. And yeah, obviously great for both shooting and close combat. Stratagem is a biker unit, can advance and still charge, and reroll once in the fight phase. Also great, as I already said, you're moving and advancing, and then you're going into your psychic phase, moving and advancing, and you still get to charge, and you're probably at the other part of the table at that point. So biker units are really, really effective, and that's obviously that thing. Warlord trait is by piling in or performing a hero intervention, you can pile into the nearest character instead, and if you focus all your attacks on him, you get +1 attack. Okay, I guess. It's not a very good Warlord trait, to be honest. The other ones have way better ones, I think, and this one. And the relic, I don't actually remember why it's not in here. Maybe it's a weapon or something? I actually cannot remember. Alright, and then there is one last one. It's Ulfwe, or Ulfi? I don't know. In German we would probably say Ulfwe, because it's a W, whatever. They have a non-stackable 6+3 no pain. So they have 6+3 no pain no matter what else they have. They only get this one, or the other one. this is on everything. Yet again, this is better than Space Marines because they have it on everything. This is not Iron Warriors or something. They have freaking Wraith Knights and whatnot would get this. Everything is basically 1 over 6 more durable. Why not? That's a very solid trait. Just like don't get hit very well if you're more than 12 away. The stratagem is +1 to hit rolls for a Guardian unit. So tying again with the thing, okay, make Guardians great again. I don't know if that's a super interesting one, not to me at least, but I mean, I tried to run Guardian armies and they weren't very successful. I mean, they were doing okay. They were not bad by any means, but because they were pretty powerful, but you wouldn't take the Guardians over anything, pretty much. So +1 to hit for them, why not? You can make huge blobs of them and try to boost their effectiveness. Warlord trait, roll d6 each player turn, so yours and your opponents, to gain 1 command point. Awesome. So you have, if your game goes to 5 turns, you have 10 tries to get command points back. Obviously, command points are very, very good for this army, as for everybody else. Obviously, command points affect the game mechanics very, very much. Why not? The Warlord trait is really useful. And the relic is +1 for smite tests. In every single codex I have seen this relic and I still think it's not good. Sorry. I would rather have the Phoenix Bomb or the Wings. And if I don't want both of these and I think I'm not going to use mobility or I take a jet bike anyway, yes, then I might consider this relic. But even then, probably not. Alright, so where's the general ideas here? Lighthawk is just meat. There's just meat. You get more Eldar for cheaper, for more durable, with really annoying troops, because Rangers are troops. Means they camp on an objective and you can't remove them. However, I think their entire strength lies in don't get caught. If you get caught, you probably just die, because you don't have anything to help you then. Ultra guys actually have a 6+3 no pain in close combat no matter what. Lighthawk do not have that, so you have to stay away. Other than this, I don't think they have anything. If you don't get caught, if you play your cards right, this should be the best, for sure. Bietan is weird. Shrinking weapons are common, but not that common. Aspect warriors are nice, but not that nice. But then the +2 charge rolls is something I really enjoy. Very problematic issue for me here is I like playing close combat, but every single Eldar thing here has something going on for them that would make close combat better. I mean, Banshees are obviously most of the time more than 12 inches away, and if they're not, they're in a great spot. So making them more durable is also a close combat trait, so to say. So I don't know, Bietan is a mixed bag as are the others. Their Warlord trait I really like. That's something I could use every round, pretty much. The Warlord trait gets a buff Warlord. He's not really fighting anything, but he's really supportive, and you can do that every round, so why not? And reroll any psychic test is obviously great. That's I think Bietan is all around pretty good. Yanden is, I think, probably the worst, although it's not really bad. If you really want to play Wraith constructs, then Yanden is actually probably your best bet. And 6+3 no pain is pretty juicy too, but I don't know. The Spirit Mark makes them really, really effective if they finally get into close combat, and obviously you want them to perform well when they get there. So this is interesting. Saimhan, I think, is the most straightforward one. They also have the duality of getting better into close combat and also shooting better with mobile forces, but obviously their greater scheme here is bikes, infiltrators, right? Fed charges screams to me infiltrate and webway assault, something like this. Even the Warlord trait does something similar. I don't know. They're an interesting mix-up of bikers and close combat stuff. And then Ulfur is the general one. I think it's the most generalistic one because the 6+ Pheno Pain you can't go wrong with that. +1 to hit for Guardians is okay. The Water Trait is really good, and the Relic is So it's, I don't know, I wouldn't call it bad, but the amount of what they can do and how they influence the game is different. And one thing to say about our Craftworlds, I think the majority of the changes that will break this is not necessarily the -1 modifiers. People freak out about the modifiers a little bit too much, I think, because once you are in close combat with these guys, they die instantly. There's no way to tell differently. They just die. So there is a bunch of abilities that allow you to get in there. What these guys are very resistant to, however, is something like a Scion unit coming down to assassinate them. That won't work. You have to have something that gets into their face and tries to remove them manually. And there is simply armies that cannot do that. There is armies that don't want to do that. Imperial Guard doesn't want to do that, Tau doesn't want to do that, and whatnot. And then obviously there's the problem with the flyers. So there's a big issue here. But the real thing is, how do you catch them? Because the Eldar have great mobility. They got even more. Their units are very fast. They are cheaper now, so you have to catch more of them before they shoot you down or charge you down, whatever may be the case. So the combination of that means that the Eldar, as always, have very, very few weaknesses. So their squishiness is a weakness that doesn't really apply when you can't catch them. And you can't shoot at them, if that makes any sense. But I think they are just far superior to any normal guys in terms of power level. So I think it's a very normal Eldar Codex in that sense, because they were always a little bit more powerful than the other codices. Not sure if they are as broken as in 7s. I don't think so. But obviously their power level has been increased pretty much. That's how would I sum it up.